want to tell you about flatworms for a second. This is going to sound a little strange, but I'll bring it back here. These are extraordinary little things that live in ponds, under logs. They live in moist soil. And what's amazing about these flatworms is that if you split one of them in two, if you cut it in half, both halves regenerate into new flatworms. In fact, if you cut it into 4 pieces, all 4 pieces can regrow into new flatworms. It means that if for whatever reason you're trying to get rid of flatworms, cutting them into pieces does more harm than good. You take a knife to it and you actually create more flatworms than you destroy. So why am I talking about this, Mr. President? Because they are a perfect object lesson of the simple truth that if you attack a problem the wrong way, you might not just leave the problem unsolved, you might actually make it worse. If you use the wrong tool to try to eradicate flatworms, you just end up with a lot more of them. In the wake of the 2003 invasion of Iraq, Mr. President, we were told that we were going to be greeted as liberators. We were told that we'd be out of Iraq in just a few years. And when that failed, our invasion turned the one-headed monster of Saddam Hussein into a two-headed monster of competing Sunni and Shiite insurgencies. And we were told that more troops would do the trick. And it worked for only as long as tens of thousands of Americans were patrolling the sands of Iraq. But ultimately, our occupation was quietly breeding a new brand of even more lethal insurgency, one that turned into the terrorist group that we're fighting today. Put simply, ISIL in its current form would not exist if we had not put massive ground troops into the region in the first place. Our presence in Iraq, our mishandling of the occupation, became bulletin board material for terrorist recruiters. Iraq became, in the CIA's words, the cause célèbre of the international extremist network. We killed a terrorist, and then the next day 2 more showed up. Now, let me be clear, because I don't want people to twist my words here. America is not responsible for this evil ideology, and our troops are not to blame for ISIL. No one forgets that al-Qaeda attacked us and killed 3,000 of our people before we invaded Iraq. But do we believe that having hundreds of thousands of U.S. soldiers occupying territory in the Middle East since then has succeeded in making us safer? We killed a lot of terrorists over the last 13 years, and yet there are more of them in more places with an even more radical agenda today than ever before.